When you're scrolling through endless listings of fish finders, you've probably felt that pang of doubt. The glossy photos promise crystal clear scans, but once you hook it up on the boat, the display ends up looking more like a fuzzy radar screen. I've been there, and I know the frustration of splurging on a unit that looks amazing online, only to discover it's a compromise in real water. That's why I'm breaking down the Garmin ECHOMAP UHD 93sv with GT56UHD transducer today, so you can avoid that mistake before you click add to cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of boat you're on and the fishing you do. This unit is a 9-inch, key assist touchscreen that shines even in bright sunlight, which is a real advantage if you spend most of your day on an open lake or river. The built-in LakeVu 3 maps already cover the continental US, so you won't need to buy separate chart packs just to get basic navigation. But the real differentiator is the transducer that comes with it, a Garmin CHIRP traditional sonar paired with ultra-high-def UHD scanning. In practice, that means you get a solid baseline echo for depth and fish, plus a high-resolution, color-coded scan that can actually separate fish from vegetation in some cases. I tested the system on a mid-sized baseboat on Lake Norman, a typical mid-size freshwater setting with a mix of open water and weed beds. The first thing I noticed was how quickly the key assist feature let me pull up a depth profile or switch sonar modes without taking my eyes off the water. The touchscreen is responsive, and the sunlight-readable backlight stays bright without washing out the color palettes. In practical terms, that saved me a few seconds each time I wanted to toggle between traditional CHIRP and the high-def scan while tracking a moving school of crappie. Now, where does the unit show its worth? If you're a weekend angler who likes to chase multiple species and you want real-time imaging of fish structures, the UHD scanning sonar really shines. On the day I ran a weed tupin test, the scan clearly displayed the transition from dense vegetation to open water, and I could see individual fish silhouettes as they moved through the sonar cone. Those color palettes, reds for strong returns, blues for weaker signals, give you an instant visual cue of target density, which is more intuitive than reading raw numeric values. On the flip side, the unit isn't a magic bullet for everything. One practical limitation is the transducer's beam angle. While the UHD scan offers great resolution, its narrow footprint means you need to keep the boat relatively steady to maintain a consistent image. On a choppy morning, the sonar picture can become jittery, making it harder to differentiate fish from noise. If you fish in larger, fast-moving boats where the hull is constantly vibrating, you might not get the same crisp images as I did on that relatively calm day. Another point to consider is the learning curve. The Garmin interface is packed with features: Panoptix LiveScope, NMEA networking, multi-tone CHIRP settings, and while the touchscreen helps you navigate, newcomers might feel overwhelmed. In my experience, the first few hours are spent just figuring out how to switch between sonar modes and set up the color palettes to suit the water conditions. If you're the type who wants plug-and-play simplicity and plan to use the unit only for basic depth reading, you might find the extra functionality more of a hassle than a benefit. Who should buy this? Think of serious hobbyists who already have a modest amount of gear and are looking to upgrade their situational awareness on the water. If you spend at least a few days a month on a lake or river, love experimenting with different sonar settings, and value the ability to share your data across multiple Garmin devices, the ECHOMAP UHD 93sv fits the bill. Its built-in map coverage, NMEA 2000/0183 compatibility for autopilot integration, and the ability to connect with other ECHOMAP or GPS units make it a solid hub for a growing electronics suite. Who should skip it? If you're a casual fisherman who only heads out a few times a season, or if you use a small inflatable boat where a heavyweight unit and a fairly large transducer add unnecessary bulk, you might be better off with a more basic 7-inch sonar that offers CHIRP without the UHD scanning. Also, if you're primarily targeting deepwater species and never need fine-scale imaging of shallow structures, the extra cost for the UHD scan could be overkill. In those cases, a simpler Garmin ECHOMAP 62 or a comparable third-party unit could meet your needs without the steep price tag. Price is always a factor, and while I won't quote exact numbers here, the ECHOMAP UHD 93sv sits in the higher mid-range of fish finders. The value you get comes from the combination of a bright, sun-readable touchscreen, comprehensive US maps, and a transducer that offers both traditional CHIRP and high-def scanning. If you actually use the scanning mode to locate fish in complex structures, the upgrade feels justified. However, if you end up using the unit mostly for